Rob, thanks for joining me, mate. You're here today to talk about retained recruitment.
I am now.
No. I'll go easy on you compared
Thank you.
to Louise. Apparently, I was very mean to her, and I have apologised to Louise, but once again, sorry. But yeah, look, you've got a particular viewpoint on retained recruitment and sort of the difference between retained and real retained. Was it that you called it?
Proper retained.
Proper retained. That's it. Yeah. So let's kind of start exploring into that, and we'll go from there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's better to go back to why retain came on my radar, really, because when I set the business up 8 years ago, and I did what everyone, I tried a bit of rec to rec, tried a bit of, was just trying to build a business and sort of get some fees in. And it became quite apparent that my time being in high street recruitment 15 years previous, it was still the same market.
Right.
I thought it had probably changed.
Evolved.
That's a better word. And weirdly enough, it hadn't. And it was really, honestly, as a small business, the cash flow element of it, because when you're working for corporates, it doesn't matter.
No.
If they don't pay or you don't get that role, all right, you don't get your bonus.
Yeah.
But you still get your PAYE money and you've still got a job because you're monthly. And it became quite clear really quickly, like, I can't run a business. And I wanted to do perm. I've done contract, done temp, never want to touch that
Right, so you were running a perm head, like
straight into perm.
business.
I left the events industry after about 9 years, went back to recruitment, and sort of I remember sat there on day one being like, yeah, I've got no clients or candidates. I completely forgot about this whole recruitment stuff.
Yeah.
So the whole retain stuff came from doing rec to rec and speaking to, I've got to be a bit careful here because obviously people can see where I worked, but going back to companies I worked at, big high street recruiters, working with their internal talent teams and being treated like something on the bottom of their shoe. And I was thinking, hang on, this doesn't happen, does it? I was a bit naive, Then I started looking at what I'm good at, and I sort of ended up going towards events, and I just didn't want to do that at any other recruitment. And retained has always had rightly or wrongly, retained has a sort of panache, like a retained, and you've got these retained recruiters that talk about it as if it's like the best thing in the world, and I think done properly it is more beneficial, but you have to have that niche, and that's where retain come from. It was my wife was the ex-HRD at Moonpig and a tech company called Dealogic. And I remember sat there like, as an HRD, what do you want a recruiter to do for you?
Excellent. Yeah.
Just tell me what you want. What do you want? And literally wrote this whole list.
Build my business plan around that from a case study of you're in this world. Tell me. Yeah.
And I know enough people in HR, and just ask that question rather than go, well, I'm going to sell this. Yeah. It was just in a dream, because I've for 9 years used recruiters the other end as the client. And, you're paying a fee 15, 20, 25%, and I was doing it still myself.
Yeah.
So it's like, wait. And I remember she wrote this list. I've still got it on my wall, like the nerd that I am. And I remember looking at it and going, I'll just do that.
Yeah.
I'll just do that.
First.
And it was really weird. It was
so what were some of the key points on that list then? Are you happy to share?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean,
no, my list.
No, not at all. I think this is the thing, because I've spoke to recruiters previously when I was setting up and during, people have left my events industry and set up on their own. And I've spoke to quite a few recruiters about let's work together. I'm not, shy about working. I've never been really one of those, like, it's my pot. I want to improve recruitment's sort of reputation for everyone because it makes it easier.
Yeah.
How many recruiters pick the phone up as soon as they go recruiter, they hear that like, oh.
Yeah.
And I think if everybody, like a Dave Brailsford, if everybody could just improve it 1%, the whole industry would be better.
No, I think, it's a really good point.
It's mental. And then, so, I talked to these people and I remember them saying, why would I do that? Why would I do that? Because for me, it is adding value, and it is those really annoying things of like, what are the pain points? And it's the heavy lifting side of it. No one wants to write a job description, for example, but I know if I can write a client's job description, they got to give me a really good brief.
Yeah.
So by taking a really good brief, I'm now already way ahead of your normal contingency recruiter because I'm sitting with 2 or 3 decision makers for an hour and a half each. So I can write a job description. I also write a bespoke role profile because the whole fitability thing, look, you've seen me and I've trademarked it. I own that word.
I
own something, which is nice. That and my wife's car are literally the only things I own. Or she owns, sorry. But the whole fitability thing is working on the premise that as a recruiter, you would hope that, finding someone that can do the job is the bare minimum.
Yeah.
So I call that the 60%. You know, the
Okay.
nuts and bolts
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
doing a job. If you're a carpenter, 60% of being a carpenter is the same whoever you work for, whatever you
Agreed.
build, almost in a way.
Yeah.
So fitability was born from, well, that 60% is a job description. That's all that is. A job description is what are you accountable for, what are you responsible for, the
Okay.
nuts and bolts. Then we write a role I write a role profile. And that role profile talks about things like the relationships they're going to come across, the projects they're going to work on, the clients they're working with, the culture, the values, stuff that has now been ruined by people saying culture, but it
Yeah.
means nothing. It's nothing if you can't prove it.
It's beanbags and free coffee, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, exactly. And that side of thing is, you know, the whole point for me is you're not going to find someone that's a good fit for your business. Like 100, if you find someone that's 85% good fit for your business, you've hit them, you've done the money there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because every job you go into is not, you know, if you can find a job you walk into on day one and you're like 85% of this job I really enjoy doing, well done you,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think we always talk about best talent, top talent. There's no such thing as best talent. It's 85% of it, and the rest is
I
how you sort
I
of
used to have a thing with that when I ran a recruitment agency. I'd always say this that the staff would be like, "Oh, can you come check this email? Can you come check this?" And I'd be like, "Get rid of that. You haven't got the perfect candidate. Nobody has the perfect candidate. There is not a single person in that business right now who is a perfect candidate.
No.
You know, and it's just kind of getting at that mentality of like actually like understand what the words you're saying really mean, rather than just sort of like willy nilly chucking them out there. But I suppose in the same sense, like there are contingent recruiters out there. I mean, we used to pride ourselves on our fill ratios and that kind of thing. And we knew that if we picked up a job and picked up a good brief and got it exclusive or got it kind of exclusive between us and another agency, we were like, we're going to fill this.
How can you have it exclusive between you and someone
Yeah,
else?
well, it was in like it's with you guys, but it's also with these guys. But they've
okay.
had, you know, but like, you know, it's kind of no one else is going to have it, and we're not going to take it. Yeah,
Joint
so
exclusive.
joint exclusive.
You've
I
made
don't know what the term
new
was.
thing
Right?
up. Joint exclusive.
All I knew was, we'd rank the jobs,
Yeah.
but we would work hard on them. We would do all the kind of turning over every stone, making sure every CV is perfect. You know, all that sort of stuff. And so recruiters like me, at that time would always find it difficult to sell retained because we're like, I'm already doing a better job than most of the other agencies,
And that's the point.
but I'm doing it contingently. So how do I then move from my contingent model, which is first class, best in class, to I'm now just exclusively retained? Where does that?
But that's that because I fell into that trap. I fell into that trap of selling it against others. I fell into the trap of saying retained is better than this because of this. And wherever now, 9 years into the business, honestly, it was only probably about 3.5, 4 years ago, like I really found that sweet spot, which was I now present retained as this is what I do for you. And to do this service, you will pay me a third up front, which weirdly enough, and I know Louise will hate this, my third retainer is actually refundable. I say to people, if you don't like my shortlist, if you think I've done a shitty job, I'll give you it back. Because I work in quite a niche area. I work in the event sector and brand experience. Although it's a £90 billion sector, it's very niche. For me, reputation is everything. You know, I've been working in events and recruitment 22, 25 years. A retainer
That's a risk worth taking, isn't it?
It is.
What I would ask you on that, since you've been doing that, how many times have you had to then give that back?
Once, and it's still
They
did go bust 6 months later, but I'm not blaming them for it. But that was, I think they were about the 6th or 7th client that I'd done since I started doing that sort of thing. Because the thing is with retained is people just hear, I've got to give you money up front, and then you might not even fill it. That doesn't make sense. How? Because I don't think about the person I'm talking to. I think about how they're going to sell it to the person who's going to sign my terms of business.
The person,
and they've got to go and go, right, this is the reason I want to use Robert. And if all they hear is we've got to give him money up front and
he's going to do what
and
he's
20 and I'm
20%.
I'll tell everyone my fees are 20%. I'm not the cheapest, not the most expensive. I realised that. So I about 3-4 years ago turned it into, right, this for me is my retained. Because there is a retained market out there, which is really contingency wrapped in a bow.
Yeah.
You know, like, and they do all this pre-sale. They've got a better website. They've got smarter marketing, smarter social. So clients will say, "Okay, I'll give you money up front." But they don't do anything different than what you've just said.
Yeah.
And Will, Will Grassoff, shout out to Will, my business partner with You Exclusive. He's a big, and I've seen him. He's a big advocate of calling people out, saying, "We do this, we do that." But that's just recruitment.
Yeah.
Like what
Yeah,
you've
why don't
just
we
said.
doing the job?
Exactly. What you've just described, I'd be quite upset if I was a client hearing, what you mean other people don't?
Yeah.
You know, like we're paying you to do the best job you can. But I think with contingency, what happens is a client gives it to 4 agencies, usually 5, but let's say 4 for the purpose of today. So what's that? That's 25% risk that they've passed out.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're surprised that those agencies don't give any more than 25% worth of their
And
time.
worth of effort, yeah.
And it, you know, if you haven't, if it's like 2 weeks has gone by, that contingency recruiter is not filling that role. They're not
No.
even looking at it. You know, it's a name on a whiteboard. And I've got nothing against contingency. No, there's a market for it. It's a multi-billion-pound market, and there's a market for it. What I have a problem is people saying this is better than that and this is better than that, rather than these are all just different services. These are all different services, and there's a market for it. Just
I have a theory on this, in that I think if as an industry we all accepted that certain industries or certain niches are better suited to retain recruitment, and you know, if the recruitment Illuminati could all get together and be like, right, we're no longer doing contingent in these sectors, and we're all going to go into that retained market, the clients have no choice but to follow suit, because that's what the new norm is, right? And I think the problem we always have is that there are so many recruiters out there that would be like, yeah, fuck it, I'll work retained. I just want to work this job. I'd rather have the 25% chance of filling this than not at all, because I don't think they're going to accept the retained option. And we find it hard to walk away from business. We find it hard to walk away. We find it hard to walk away from the carrot of potential business, because I say again, you say this to the team all the time. Like, just walk away. The rates are too low. Walk away.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to walk away though. Like, yeah, I can feel this role, but no,
that's
you
the
might
good thing about
feel,
recruiters, isn't it? They've got that hunger.
This is it, and it's like, no, you might fill that role, but you might not. So walk away from it unless the financials add up. And I suppose that same mentality then needs to apply to a kind of best in class contingent recruiter to tell himself or herself that no, I need to now start getting the most out of my clients, and to say, look, like, I now work in this way. I like it's refundable, because I suppose that gives them that element of kind of,
if it doesn't
quite work out, you haven't lost anything, right?
No.
But also it helps them take that like kind of baby step into that world, because again, your client hasn't worked with you retained before, so they don't really know what they're getting into either.
And this is the thing, you know, I only work with probably 2 or 3 clients a month. You know, I set my business up to place 1.75 placements a month, but I'm working on sort of roles.
So like tall midgets then.
Say again. I'm working on roles, you know, sort of anything from 80,000 and above. And I look at it that I would rather have 1 or 2 clients a month telling me and telling their network how good I am, rather than a contingent who has to maybe, let's say 1 in 3. I think it used to be 1 in 4. Well, I can't remember. Let's just say 1 in 3. You know, you've got 3 roles on, you're going to fill 1, but you've got 2 people there who are going to say, well, you're no good at recruitment because you didn't fill my role.
Yeah.
Now, even that third person is never going to say you're good, because if you filled their job, that's like the least you'd imagine.
You're supposed to do
that. That's what the job is.
Yeah.
So I took it and I thought about retained in that whole way of, you know, like I said, if they're talking to somebody else and they go, oh, you've got to pay up front, tell me why you did that. I want that person to almost be really proud. Yeah. I want them to be like, this guy interviews bespoke for me. This guy creates a shortlist.
The thing is, the psychology of buying has proven that when somebody has done that, so when somebody who's bought a Tesla will never tell you they made a mistake.
Yeah.
Right? They'll always tell you that it's the best thing they ever did, won't they? But when we make the decision to buy, usually it's an emotional purchase that's justified by facts, right?
Yeah.
Justified to ourselves initially, but then for the most part, we then advocate that purchase to everybody who'll listen, right?
Yeah.
So actually, you with kind of your clients are going to do your marketing for you. All you got to do is win that first retained client in a niche market. You win that first retained client. You can almost use that as okay, look, if you want any, you know, if you want a reference or if you want a testimonial, the last bit of recruitment I did was for Rob. Here's his details. Reach out to Rob. They reach out to Rob. Rob, how was that, you know, service that you got from Knitting in this retained thing? Yeah, it was great. Fantastic. They're not going to go, I mean, I really wish I hadn't done that.
Yeah.
You know,
but you made a good point there, because the problem is with recruitment is people don't talk about it to their friends and their competitors or colleagues in a positive way, because what you're saying is, I can't recruit.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you're
yeah.
saying I've used Robert to recruit, what you're saying is we can't do it ourselves. And no one wants to say
No.
they're not very good at something, even though I would never say I could do their job. So back to that as I was mentioning there, that's how for me the retained model came into this, and it's grown and evolved now, is I want people to be like, he writes job descriptions, he interviews, he
Yeah.
shortlists. I don't, like headhunter. I hate that. I am a headhunter, but for me, it's my network, because we can all type in event manager or event director into LinkedIn. Yeah, that's not headhunt. But for me, it's easy to find what I call applicants. The tough bit in recruitment is getting candidates.
Mm.
So a shortlist can be one, and that's having balls to say to a client, there's the person. I did this recently for an ECD, an exec creative director, and she was on 130, 140 was the role. And I put one person forward, one lady, and the client was honestly like, what is happening? I went, what do you mean? Like, and what's that phrase? Benchmark. We'd like to benchmark. I was like, no.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, what are you doing? I said, I found the person. And I can show numbers, 60 applications, 40 odd spoke to, 15 interviewed, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Because I do that. The
There's
tire kicker meetings. I
yes,
do
yeah,
all
yeah.
of that.
The
I do all of
justification of work. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Because that is retained. Retained is, you hear that extension of your team.
Mm-hmm.
I'm your team. It's like
Yeah.
I'm a freelance recruiter.
Yeah, yeah,
I'll
yeah,
come
yeah.
and I'll recruit and then I'll leave.
Yeah. I'll
You
take you
know?
under the bonnet and show you what I've done if you really want, or you can
Yeah.
just go, it's fixed. Do you want to carry on with it?
And the thing is about if you do offer a retained service, it's the briefing stuff, and it's standing to your principles. Like, I won't take a brief from one person only, because with retained, what happens is if I put a short list of one, and then at the end the CEO comes in and goes, "Well, I'm only seeing one. I don't like this. I'm only seeing one. I want a benchmark." It's hard for me to then push back.
Yeah. Yeah.
I make sure if that COO is going to make a decision, they're in the briefing. Otherwise, I've said to people, I won't take your role. Why would I set myself up to fail? Because every client, I hand on heart, every client I've said no to
Mm-hmm.
with regards to, I won't do those fees. Well, no, I won't take it on if you just want to say, have all come back to me. They've come back and said,
Yeah.
that thing 6 months ago,
Yeah.
and a
Still
couple of
doing
them
it.
I've said to people on my terms of business, it says 20%, but if you go and use other people and then come back to me, I'll charge you 25%. Because obviously I used it, bit of a sales tactic. I
Yeah,
want to
no,
scare
but
the
yeah.
shit out of you,
Yeah.
so you give me the business now. And then I've had people come back going, look, I've given it to 4 agencies, we've stuck it on LinkedIn, we've seen 40 people, could you now take it on? And I'm like, but you've just made my job exponentially
Yeah.
harder.
Yeah.
And they don't get that.
Yeah. The
And I've
haystack
only
that
done it
I'm
once
now.
to someone.
Yeah.
I've only
Yeah.
actually once charged someone 25. I should probably try that more often, actually.
Yeah, why not? But yeah, I think that's it's important. What I like though is not just the sticking to your guns thing, because obviously that comes with kind of experience and confidence and over time. But I like the thought process that, again, a lot of kind of junior recruiters or people sort of early in their careers could take away from that is find out who's in the decision making process, right? If I'm taking a brief, whether it's from talent acquisition, whether it's from the line manager, but how many people are in this decision? Who's going to get the say so as to whether this person joins the business or not? Right. Well, can I speak to all of them, please?
No, I have to speak to all of them.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But I mean, yeah. Okay, fair. Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah,
Don't take a job on if someone's
yeah, I
going
need
to
to speak to all of those people because I can't do a job otherwise. I can't effectively do the right thing for you. Yeah,
my favourite briefing question is the when they say like it's between 80 and 100, and I'll ask them, what's the difference between an £80,000 candidate and a £100,000 candidate? And no one will give you an answer because they don't know.
Yeah.
So straight away you're like, by doing the retainer, I mean, look, let's just wind it back. By doing a retainer, what happens is automatically the client sees you as different. They now see you as their recruiter.
Mm-hmm.
That can work, and it sometimes can't because now they think I'm an employee.
Yeah.
So you can get the runaround, and you've got to eat some shit on a daily basis. And I've eaten enough in my time that I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
Don't have that as the quote. Rob eats shit. No, don't say it. But
and likes the taste of it.
And likes the taste of it. Yeah, but. So that sort of thing, once you've got that retainer in, for a start, you're in through procurement, accounts, you're going to get paid quickly at the end. So it's always, for me, it's about cash flow as well. But when you're doing that briefing, which I always do face-to-face, we're in Coventry today. I'm at an award ceremony later, but obviously I'm in Coventry to see you. I go around the country, even if I worked for you last year, I'll still come up to your office and brief because that role, I don't know your culture. I hate that. Like, oh no, we've worked with you before, so just send us a JD. Bollocks. get in there and brief and speak to them.
But that's the mentality from the last couple of years as well, which has been prevalent, right? Which is just take the brief, fill the job, take the brief, fill the job. And now those agencies are the ones that are struggling, because actually it's like, oh, you haven't got a relationship with that client that you build.
No.
You built 100 grand last year with them, but you haven't got a relationship with them.
No.
Weird that, because you were just servicing a need, and now all of a sudden you want them to
You're not
respect
a benefit.
you and
don't add value.
have a relationship with you, and you don't even know half the people in that team.
And I think that's where retained has got a bad net. And I 100% get it. And I was one of those people. I was absolutely one of those people on LinkedIn telling everyone that retained was better than everyone else, because it was my business and I wanted to sell my business. I fell into that trap.
Yeah.
And it took, some kicks in the you-know-what. But until I could stand in a room with a load of recruiters and answer okay, what is it you do that you think, like we talked about Will and you talked about what you did before, 50% of what I do is still 100% better, more detailed, more bespoke than most of the recruiters out there. Just 50%. But you'll have done that, and Will do that, and other really, the people we see online, that everybody knows, they'll do that. For me, it's yes, but what is the difference between that and me now giving you money up front? Yeah. What are you doing for me? So that's where the job description, the role profile, I'll do things like write Q&A, do scoring matrices. I'll train these are people, who probably haven't maybe interviewed £180,000 COO. So I'll sit with those decision makers. I'll help them. We'll get to what.
So these must be then really the small and medium enterprises, right? We're not talking kind of blue chips and.
No, I work with companies usually around the sort of 7-8 million to about 25 million.
Yeah,
I've got a couple, obviously. Look, one of the clients I work with is a couple of billion. But that's not at all.
No,
I work with their UK arm, which is a 4.5-5 million. But it's because you've got to, with me as well, you've got to understand that. One client will only use me every 18 months to 2 years because it's a senior role. They don't really need to change senior people that often.
Yeah.
So it's that I have to constantly be out there showing up.
There's so many layers to it though, right? Because you're kind of like, right, I've selected my niche, which is this particular industry, which is hard for a lot of recruiters to do. Because there'll always be but can't you just help you're in recruitment? I know you do IT recruitment, but can't you just find me a finance manager? Like, you can just chuck an advert out, see what happens. And it's, again, for a cash-strapped or a cash flow worried business owner or recruiter, you're going to be sitting there like, oh, go on then. I won't turn away from that.
Especially last year.
So you've got your niche. Yeah, well, yeah, exactly, right? Or coming out of last year with a lot of the debts that people are carrying forward. 100%. So you've gone, right, I'm going to pick a niche, but then within that niche of an industry, I'm going, this is the sweet spot for me, i.e. big fees, good salaries, limited talent pool, so I get to really understand and know that talent pool. It's a national talent pool. So, okay, I'll have to go all over the place, but actually somebody who is based in London but needs to be in Birmingham 2 days a week is that it's doable, and vice versa.
I do global stuff as well.
Okay, all right.
Well, if you're not placing people in the US and the UAE, are you a recruiter now? That's all everyone says they do. It's like I take people from here abroad, but I never get involved in global recruitment. I find that. But you're right. The niche thing is.
It's really doubling down. It's that whole inch wide, mile deep mentality, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a really good phrase. I like that. But that's the thing. Like, if recruiters didn't, I know that sounds so weird. It's the recruiters that look at the fees first. If recruiters are sat there as a business owner, probably not a recruitment consultant. If you're a business owner looking at, right, how much money do I want to make? Then straight away you're setting yourself up to fail.
Yeah,
because you're not looking at it from a point of view of what is it I offer? Because it's like. You look on LinkedIn, you look at all those recruiters running businesses, they've got a mobile, a laptop and a LinkedIn recruiter license. They're all telling the world they're recruiters.
Yeah.
So you've now put yourself up against them as competition. So sorry, you reap what you sow. And this is, how Will and I came together. Like, I looked at him on LinkedIn as, Will Grassop, very funny. His videos, OX7 are brilliant. But I was like, I don't know what you do. You're just... contingencies. I used to call him a contingency scumbag, which he still
is.
Weirdly enough, doesn't like me calling him that. And he thought I was like he used to call me a retainer wanker.
Yeah.
Because, and it was, we were both trying to do that. Contingency's great, retain's great. And then we sort of got to know each other. And that's where the Business U exclusive came from. Because U Search and Select works on roles above 60,000. But because of the brand I was building, people would come to me and say, can we have a project manager for 50 grand? And I'd sit there and be like,
Yeah.
50 is quite close to 60.
Yeah.
50 is quite close. But what I learned was the retained model, that 50 to 60 is a different world. Absolutely different world. Because I can't work very well with people junior mid-level because I'm, quite an old school approach to it. I want to know what makes you tick. I want to know, not just because of I do a 6 month 100% rebate for
Okay.
not just because I want you staying there for the next 2 or 3 years, so that you're going to call me in a year or so and start placing more people with you. So I want to know about you. Whereas, and also at senior level, you've usually been in a job for like 3, 5, 7 years.
You've done your kind of working up through businesses to get.
And I know it could be a bit wet, but I see it as a bit of a. I am taking people. I am not convincing. I'm giving you an opportunity from leaving your job of 5 years to come to this one. I want to make sure it's right for you. Whereas I think junior and mid-level, it's more about what's the job, what's the pay, where's the location, and I'll make that decision. Because if it lasts 18 months, 2 years,
mate, do it for a couple of
people
years.
just
Look
go.
on your CV, and then you can go somewhere else.
Exactly. And we set it up, and he now works exclusive, and and he'll say it to me privately, and I won't get into too much private stuff, but he's like, it's changed his approach, because when you do say to people, no, I specialize here, I'm great here, and this is something else, and if you want that, brilliant. I'm not saying that's bad, but here's a different option. People take notice of that. And for me, retained has a reputation of, like people thinking, their poop doesn't stink, but that's because you've got people doing a contingency model and just asking for money up front.
Yeah. No, I see that. Yeah, I can see that now. Yeah, so you've really thought about your proposition. You've really thought about and so how long did it take you to get to that point then where you're like, this is what they need? You know what I mean? Or this is what I need to be offering?
I started the business and did that typical thing of I went, right, I'm going to try to be a bit niche. I'm going to do operations, client services, and I think sales. But I'm going to do it across everything. So my niche was areas. So I was like, I live in Brighton, and I was at like one week at Shore and Port talking to them, and then next week I'm at some aerospace company, and then next week I'm at lawyers or something. Not lawyers, that's bad. Accountants, weirdly enough, I remember. And suddenly I'm sat there going, I don't know anything about this. I'm actually selling bullshit. And I was, to be honest, doing all right.
Yeah.
But I was looking at it longer term thinking, this is bullshit. I am not really a recruiter here. I'm just making money. And the difference straight away. And it took me about 18 months, because I come from the events industry. It took me about 18 months, and I started doing analysis of where are my phone calls coming from, and asking clients, like, why have you have you come to me? And 50% of them were like, because I know you and you used to work in our industry at senior level. And it was one of those like aha moments of like, ooh, I should just work in events.
Yeah.
And then to do that again,
you sit there like, God damn it!
I know, it's so annoying. I think back now, the rec to rec I did, and that's why I take the mic. She was on your podcast, Angela
Hill.
I take the mickey out of her mercilessly. But anyone that can work in rec to rec and do well and work like she does with a smile on her face, fair play, fair, because that market is nuts. And I did that, and I call it rec to rec with a W to deliberately wind up. But I did that market and was making money. But every night it was like, this is awful. I do not feel like I'm adding value, and no one cares about me. And I, had the back doors with companies that I used to work at. I used to work at these companies.
Yeah, so you know me.
And you're still
happy to take, and it's just me, and you're taking money out of my back
unbelievable.
Like,
unbelievable.
Yeah.
So when I went into the event side, it was like I looked at it as like, if I'm at a networking event and someone goes, they're all recruiters over there, what story do I want people to say about me? And if they can't say a story about you, who are you? You're just another recruiter on LinkedIn. So yeah, it will annoy certain people, but I then get to work with clients who are like, I see the value of what you do, and I want you to come and do that for me. So straight away, the relationship is, we're in this together, aren't we?
Yeah.
And it's,
I see that. So on that, with that approach then, and being completely candid, you don't have to answer this, but how much business development work do you have to do now? With
shitloads.
Yeah, still.
Shitloads, yeah.
Even with all of that, you're still having to bash the phones. And
the thing is about the business development I have to do, it's going back to what I said earlier about the type of roles I do. It's a £90 billion industry, so it's massive. But I work very specifically with event agencies and brand experience agencies. If you're in that market, you'll know what that is. So that sort of industry or those sort of clients, the timelines are still the same.
Mhm.
But if I speak to them and they're already recruiting, I'm too late.
Yeah.
So there's 25% of my market gone. Oh,
Yeah.
you're looking for an MD, or you're already with 2 others? I don't. And I've had people, Rob would like you to find us an FD. We've given it to 3 other people.
Yeah.
No, I'm not gonna do that, and I'll miss out, and they will find someone. So there's half the 20 of your market gone. Because of the types of role, I can work with a client who adore me, who love me, but they might not use me because they've placed their MD or they've placed their senior. So I constantly have to try to be front of mind, and that's with SEO, that's with insight analytics from LinkedIn and the website, that's with my social recruitment strategy, it's with targeted email marketers, which I've only started doing last year with the do you know Sarah Potter? Have you heard of Sarah Potter? Higher Right Talent. Higher Right Talent. She, if you're a recruiter,
I've invited her on the podcast a few times, and she keeps ignoring me. She
keep saying no, Sarah.
Yeah,
keep saying no.
She doesn't like me, I don't think.
She's wonderful. Unless you've upset her, she would not like you.
Do you know what I might have done in my early days? I
Well,
don't know.
There's
I know
another thing.
I know that Mark Hopkins speaks highly of her.
Oh, and Mark. I love Mark
Mark's
as well.
brilliant.
Had a great
yeah.
chat.
So, and I was all like, oh man.
But I think that that's the thing. So I'm constantly, I'm very lucky, and this is going to sound really facetious, because my product is different, because I have a proper brand and a name, and I know if I'm speaking to somebody and they're listening, I'll get a visit. But the thing is, I won't get the sale because I want to speak to people before they need to recruit. I want to speak to you 3 months before you need to recruit. But when you recruit,
so business development in your world is kind of all day, every day, 365 days a year, right?
Because at this event today, I'm a judge at the event, and I've got business cards on me, and I've got my patter ready because some people might not know me, but that I have to be front of mind as that's the guy in our industry. I get other recruiters now sending senior candidates. I get candidates saying, "Oh, I spoke to XYZ. They said you're the guy that does senior recruitment." It cuts through if you sit there. But I think that's the thing with it. I've also been really open with recruiters. During the pandemic, I must have had a group of about 8 or 9 industry recruiters, my competitors, that I got us all together, and I would individually, because never as a group, no one will ever talk. But I would talk to them and be like, I'm really struggling here, but I'm finding this working. And they would be like, oh, really? Because I'm finding this. So we would share info because I was so upfront about it and saying, as recruitment, just do it fucking properly and everyone's life will be easier.
I've noticed there's a changing trend in that as well. That there used to be a time where absolutely you would not. I mean, I worked at Michael Page and we'd be in Brindley Place in Birmingham and you'd be on lunch and be like, see that guy over there? Yeah, he's Rob Half. You know what I mean? And it's like, and you look back and you think, that's so fucking stupid, right? Because what's this person from Rob Half done?
No, it's crazy.
Accepted a paycheck from another company. Like I have no share in Michael Page. He or she has no share in Robert Half. So why do I hate this person? And
because that was the market. Do you remember the old marketing strategy was we're better than you?
Yeah, that's it.
Go back to that contingency thing. It was absolutely. Like we're better than you.
Because there's no other USP that we can shout about. So we have to say something like negative or whatever. And it wasn't until we set up and then a handful of people who were our peers and competitors set up that I realised that I quite like talking to other recruiters who are running their own business, and they're really open to, mate, what's working for you guys? Because I'm trying this and it just isn't working. Or that I like what you guys are doing there. That's really fun. Do you mind if I take that kind of ideology and apply that to my niche? And there's a lot more of that kind of sharing going on now, I find.
I think, and it comes the confidence over, because you have to have confidence to do that.
Yeah.
But you've also got to have belief that you can stand alone. Like, what if, for example, the next client you spoke to said, "Oh, it's you and so that I'm speaking to."
Yeah.
The person.
Great.
Yeah, but now you're like, well, what do I do here? Because now that person I was sharing info with is going to take money out of my pocket.
So I've had that a few times.
Really?
Yeah, I've had that a few times, and I then say, and it was usually with the same couple of people, and I will name drop them. I mean, Sonny used to have his own agency. He went back to Half, I believe, or Investic. I'm not sure where he is, but he's definitely working for somebody
still
now. Yeah. And the other one was Dave Whittle, who again works in the Coventry market and Covent Warwick market, finance recruiter. And I've had it a few times where like, oh yeah, the role's out with Sonny from Advivo and Dave from Bespoke, and I'd go, good. I know both of them. I like both of them.
Yeah,
I know one of us three will fill this job for you.
yeah. But that's the thing,
And
though.
it's
It's
like,
but that's a different approach. That's a personal. I like those people, and I think what they're doing is good. When you go up against competitors who just don't have another
yeah,
recruiter,
yeah.
that's the tough thing. That's
Yeah,
where you've got to learn to walk away from it. And look, I run my own business, and I run You Exclusive with Will. Oh, sorry, he runs it. I'm very much in the background, but we've got to the stage of being like, this is what we do. This to me is retained. Retained is, I believe this adds value, and if you want to pay for it, then here it is.
yeah,
Okay, it's here, and these are the benefits. It's not better than them. That's not terrible, but this is a different approach,
yeah,
because I would say 99 times out of 100, a client will look at mine and go, I really like that approach. But within those 99, actually, I've got to find someone in 2 weeks. Actually, I need like quite a volume of CVs. So their need
yeah,
changes.
yeah,
I
yeah.
can't
Your model
sell.
doesn't suit me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but what happens is
and
where
that's
people
okay.
go wrong.
Yeah,
Exactly. They then change their sale to, well, now you've said that's a pain point, I'm going to tell you, no, it doesn't. You've got to like, oh, actually, I can do it in 2 weeks. No, I can't. I can't do a retained search.
yeah.
And I see
It's
these
like saying
people.
I exclusively sell black cars, and then the
Yeah,
client goes, "I want a red car." I can do that.
I'll paint it.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Exactly
But
right.
it's
So like,
it's like seeing
stick to
people.
what you're. Yeah, if you stick to your guns, what's the worst that will happen? It's kind of we
Yeah,
had a very similar moment a few years back now where we had a ton of jobs on, but they were all over the fucking gaff. Right?
yeah,
There was like I had a health and safety manager, two senior buyer roles, and a ton of legal roles,
yeah.
all in different areas of like of law as well. And I was like, fucking hell, the job board's never been so busy, blah, blah, blah. We only had two finance jobs. And we were like, we're a finance recruitment company. Like, that's our niche. That's what
Yeah.
people
What are
know
we
us as.
doing?
That's all we've ever done. What the fuck are we doing?
Yeah, yeah.
And then we had a guy come over. His name's Alex Elliott. I'm not sure if you know him. He's Leicester based, really, really nice guy, an investor in this, that, and the other. And he come along and he was sort of like, be honest with yourself, guys. How many of those jobs are you honestly going to fill?
Yeah,
And I was like, I'll bag the health and safety manager. That's a piece of piss. I can do that because I know I've got candidates that are like good and ready to go. I'll probably do one of the senior buyer ones, but truth be told, the law roles, fucking ain't got a clue. I have to start my shortlist from scratch. And he was like, okay, so take all of those jobs off the board. What are you going to do with your time now that you're not sourcing for those jobs? I was like, well, be BD, wouldn't it? And he was like, and how many finance jobs do you think you'll pick
yeah.
up in the time that you'll save? And I was sort of like, I know what you're saying makes sense. And
But I
I
still
know
want
that
to
I
punch
should.
you in the face.
Do you know what I mean? No, but I was sort of like, but I don't know why I needed you to tell me that because, like, now you're telling me it. I'm like, duh, like,
But
you fucking moron.
But that's that thing that you said. That's about recruiters listening. Like I've got a mentor, Martin Ellis, his name is, works for Recruitment Southeast down in Brighton. He's like a 65-plus-year-old grumpy, miserable bastard. Ran his own recruitment business, sold it, still does consultancy. He puts stuff on about his shed.
Excellent.
But he's got a great little network. And I went to him about 4 years ago, said, I really like your stuff. And I just asked him, like on a date, I was like, will you speak to me about being a mentor? And having someone outside of the bit, having a mentor is the greatest thing you can do as a recruitment business. And Will hopefully won't mind me saying, like we have these Friday chats for like a good hour. Usually two they are. Every Friday we have a chat, and sometimes it can just be us talking about our kids, our family.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
can be talking about football. It can be, but we end up supporting
need
each
that.
other. Yeah. And that's what happens if you let somebody look at it and can be really comfortable in your skin, first of all, because the whole point you're asking for help is
You want
there's
the
a
truth.
problem.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
a
yeah,
problem.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But the other
yeah.
thing is to listen, because if someone says to you, like retained, we talked about, if someone says that's not a retained model, what you're selling is not retained. If you're going to turn around and go, well, I'm not listening to that,
Yeah.
then you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Because now you've had support saying, actually, and I think that's the thing with retained is I personally think as the retained model and it does usually work on senior level roles. Because of the timing and the
Yeah,
detail and
yeah.
the career. It's the career aspect for me. I hate these like I took a job on a Friday and filled it on a Thursday. I read those and I'm like, how is that a badge of honor? And people might say, well, I've got a really good network, but how can that candidate have done due diligence and the client done
Yeah.
due diligence? How is that a badge of honor? Just as much as
Sounds very forced.
it's awful,
Yeah.
but just as much as like, if a client said to me, I'm going to do a 6 or 7 stage interview process, no, you're not.
No, you fucking not.
You're not
Yeah.
going to do that.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to last 3 months. It doesn't, for me, retained is that anywhere between sort of 2, 3 to about 4, 5 weeks.
Mhm.
If you work retained on in a certain amount of roles,
Yeah.
you can get a short list of both passive, active applicants, network, all the stuff that we talked about. But to do the due diligence to say, I've done all that, and there's only 2 people you need to meet up. Because what happens is when they meet those people, weirdly enough, they believe you, but it's only when they meet the people they go, now I trust you.
Yeah, now I get it. Yeah.
So they're like, I believe you. I trust you now. Oh, I can
Well,
see
it's
it.
the difference between seeing product and not seeing product, right? It's sort of in any world, if you're building a bit of tech, you choose the dev team that you want to work with based on kind of an element of, okay, yeah, I like what you're saying, but it's not until they deliver the initial thing that you're like, okay, I made the right choice.
And I think recruitment's one of those very few things where, that phrase, people buy from people.
Yeah.
Recruitment is one of those very few things where you're like, does it? Does it really? Because most of the recruiters that you and I know on LinkedIn, I really wouldn't want to go and have a beer with them. I see what they put. I'm like, I'm sorry, but I'm not
my kind of people.
I'm not going to buy from you. But you can be a really good. I read these people talk like Mitch Sullivan, as you know, talks about job adverts and sales. And for me, like, you shouldn't be a salesperson in recruitment. If you're a salesperson in recruitment, there's a problem there. Because you're just selling like
I used to have this argument
BS
all the time because I'm on that camp. Recruitment for me is a marketing game.
Yeah, I'm here when you need me. I'm here when you need me.
It is not a sales game.
No.
But a lot of people don't want to hear that. But then equally, I'm of this opinion now where, and I said this on a podcast a few months back, and it didn't go down great with certain people. I think sales is now in 2024 and onwards. Sales is a function of the marketing department, right? And what I mean by that is, it's not really even marketing and sales anymore. It's revenue ops, like revenue optimization. That is, because if you think about all the things you describe when you kind of talk about what you do to build your brand and your business, there's a social element. There's the marketing, the email marketing, the outreach, the cold hard dial phone. Hi, it's Rob. I specialize in this. Is an ever decreasing part of the game now.
Oh, yeah, but I think it's the best part.
No, it might very well be, but it's also
fantastic.
Becoming the least effective part because there's a growing trend of people who don't answer the phones. People who don't answer phones, they don't like to people they don't know. People who only answer the phone.
Right in the office now, I suppose.
Yeah, or yeah. But there's sort of like.
But then have you heard of Lusher and Sales Excel?
Yeah.
I mean, do you know what? I've been doing this 20 odd years. Only last year did Lusher come onto my radar. Only last year, and now I'm on LinkedIn like, shit, there's a mobile.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's happened?
Yeah.
But again, though, I think
I had a sales call yesterday, and it was the Benjamin Dennehy phone call. It was the, can I have 30 seconds? I was like, or shall you hang up? And he was like, yeah. So basically, look, we're brought into companies to do this, and this. But, I suppose none of those apply to you, right? And I was just like, look, I know the course you've done. It's great. I'm going to be completely frank with you, though. You have spoken so much, so fast. I don't really get what it is you do. What are you selling? And he's like, we train up SDRs and sell them into businesses. And I was like, right. Yes, I do need that.
Yeah.
Not right now, maybe in 3 months. So call me in 3 months. And he was like, okay, yeah, cool. So, but what I've got you, can I get you? I was like, listen, I know you've got a quota to reach.
But that'll be on a board. 3 months as a lead there.
That's it. No, right. But in the end, because he was a nice enough guy, but eventually I was sort of like, listen, are you listening or are you just waiting to talk?
Yeah.
Because there's a difference there.
100%.
And so for me, I think sales and marketing are all blended into the one thing. I think revenue kind of optimization should really be the term used, and because you want your salespeople posting on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
you want your salespeople going. When your salesperson's like, oh, I've made a TikTok, or I've done this, I've done that. You want them to do that, but that's all marketing activity. So if marketing is that bad and that different to sales, why are you encouraging your salespeople to do it? Right?
I think for me, marketing is it's being there when people need you. Sales is putting yourself in their front room for when they need you. I think it's one of them, like marketing is people will find you, sales is introducing. That's how I always remember it from years ago. And for me, the problem with sales is you can never, I think, ROI sales, and even phone calls. A cold call to me is the old, and I used to do it. We used to do it back in the day. I'd have a yellow pages, kids.
Yellow
Look up what a
pages,
yellow page.
yes.
We would literally go, hello, do you have any temp requirements? Didn't even know where they fucking were. They could have been Aardvark Limited or Action Concrete. It was like,
Yeah.
do you have any
A
temp
plus
needs?
plus
Bang. Do
plumbing.
you have
Yeah, yeah.
and you get 1 out of 100. Yeah, that's cold calling. For me, and I've got a guy that does it. I'm not going to say his name because I don't want anyone else to use it. But he uses he works for me 6 days, 5 days a month. But I feed him data. I feed him like, this is Nitin. Nitin is the MD of this company. He will like it. So I feed him that. So when he does it, when he speaks to you, it's not a cold call because you will know me because I have like today I'm at this judging thing. That's a big thing in my industry. You know, oh, Robert's a judge on Friday. You know, it's little things like that.
But that's all marketing.
I get it, but for me, and this is just because I'm old. I mean, I'm 50 in 3 years. You've got to remember, I've always thought of it like I say. Marketing is that like here when you're ready, and sales is this is like I'm going to tell you what I do. And I think social has affected that massively.
It used to be. But marketing now is so multifaceted, right? In that there's so many different ways to get in front of and get through to people, and get your product and your service in front of people. This podcast is marketing.
Yeah.
Do you know? It could. What else? It's certainly. Yeah. Where would you categorize it? Do you know what I mean? Content on LinkedIn is marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But people get funny about it because they can't. Like recruitment. I remember when I used to run recruitment teams, and do you remember the old pipelines? Talk about your pipeline.
Yeah, it's all like,
and you'd look, and I can't tell you where are we now, January or whatever it is. I can't tell you what business is going to come off this year in my business.
No.
I can't tell you that. And anyone that shows you here's 40 roles and it's bullshit. And I think people shy away from that. You know, Anton, oh God, I just said his name down. He did a call the other day, completely out of the blue, had a creds meeting with the guy 2 weeks later. And within a week, he signed off an MD role where I'm gonna bill him, what's it, 120 to 130,000.
There's no way you can forecast that. Yeah.
You know, he could do 99 other calls, and I'm there to help him. I've had people ring up. I Googled senior event recruitment, and I've looked at your website, and I want to use you. Who are you?
Yeah.
I've never heard of you. You know, so you can't.
Will?
It's like, what's, you know, like when I talk
taking the piss out of me,
when I talk to the SEO people or marketing people, and the thing with marketing is they like the fact they can put numbers to it. They like the whole reach, engagement, impressions. And when I talk to my SEO people, we've had an increase of 120%, and they've been on this and the low, and I'm like, great. Who has phoned me? Who has actually got in touch? Because that's the only metric I give a shit about. Like, because I'm old school. I'm like, if no one's ringing me that month, you could tell me, well, if 1 million people have gone on my website, we have a problem if I can't convert 1 million people. But I think that's why marketing, especially with the advent of social, everyone's a fucking marketer. There's freelance marketers, and you're like, that's not marketing, you know. And there's a whole subsection: social media management, marketing, project. And it's like, but what do you do? Like you say, the bare bones of it is, I want revenue for my business. I'm openly happy
and actually,
but that's it.
Yeah, historically, those two teams were so separated, and I'm a big advocate for, if your sales and marketing function work together, you're going to drive revenue in the right way.
Yeah,
because your salespeople don't understand the data that the marketing guys talk about. When they talk about click-through ratios, when they talk about impressions and that kind of thing, the salespeople don't understand that. Salespeople work in very binary kind of very kind of noughts and ones, right?
Binary.
And but like, it's sort of, they kind of want to do the personal branding thing, and they kind of want to do the marketing thing, but they don't get it. And you've got big phrases. You've got business. I hate personal branding as a phrase as well. I've had to learn to like it, but I just think it's such a cock phrase.
And there's people that will sell you.
Oh, personal branding gurus.
I'll teach you how to be a personal. It's like, we're through the mirror, people. We're through the mirror.
I gave Steve Guest a load of shit when he was like, no, my second book, personal brand, and I was like, fuck off. You haven't called it that, have you? It's like, why? And I was like, I fucking hate that term.
Wow.
I'm giving such a hard time about it, but
it's that honesty that, for me, personal brand really It's honesty, it's consistency, it's doing and being what you say you are and when you say you'll do it. And if you go back to what you said right at the beginning about how you approach things, it's I don't know, I really feel old today, but it's like, but isn't that what you should just do anyway? Like, why would you go online and lie? Why would you go and tell people stuff that isn't right? Why?
Why do people do that?
Yeah, I don't understand,
Yeah.
especially in business, because especially now with social, you go and you do something, and you've seen it recently in my industry. Someone's just called someone out about unpayment of an invoice. You know, they can just go, Knit and did this. Suddenly, you're public enemy number one for like days.
I will never understand why that happens. I will never understand why people like will blatantly bullshit. I mean, there are a lot of people that I'm connected to on LinkedIn that have got things like investor or like, you know, property investor or crypto investor,
Specialist consultant,
that kind of thing, or
and they were Y2K consultants,
or will like fully just be bullshitting about what they do and it's like, you realize I can just go onto company's house and see what you're filing, you know, for myself, and it's kind of like, why do people feel the need to do it? But then that's a whole different podcast, isn't it? Because then you talk about, again, the shit side of social media and what that's done to people. Because, you know, there's people out there that will literally fucking
it feeds a flame,
destroy their own mental health over likes and shares, or feel the need to put things like, I used to joke about this with like my old staff all the time, like, I reckon I should put investor and property investor because I've got a rental property and you know, I've got a hire car.
I'm like,
but I'd be like, I've got a Coinbase account. I've got about like 600 quid in crypto, and you know, I've got shares and stocks and shares that I invest in. I mean, they're all in like stupid.
As long as you've got a decent Canva banner, you're fine.
But I was like, yeah, I should put that on there. Yeah, investor, and like, you know, I gave 500 quid to a local business to like help him set up, and now, like, you know, so I'm technically an investor in his business. Oh, I should do that. I should write a book about it or something, like, you know what I mean?
But I think that's the thing, though. The problem with social, especially in recruitment, is it's easy to get engaged with. If you went on this afternoon and said, Robert Kenward said all contingency recruiters are wankers, and watch my podcast, your podcast viewing figures would go like that.
Yeah.
And there'd be tons of comments, tons of likes, tons of people saying bad things. And then what?
Yeah.
It's we all talk about vanity metrics, and
that's it.
I mean, I feel embarrassed saying this. It was only last year, like Will told me about it. You know, the viewing metrics, that you can actually change that to be like job title, company, and I was like, I didn't. So suddenly I'm looking at
shit.
I was nuts because everyone's LinkedIn
people
stuff.
who matter are looking at my stuff. They might not be liking it. Yeah, I put a post out about this the other day because I was like, you know, it'd been out for 3 hours and only been seen by 250 people, right? And it was just a polite reminder about RecTalks in terms of, if you claim your page, it costs you this much, and this is what you get for
this is hashtag ad now.
And,
you're doing your ad.
This is the ad
RecTalks.
So you go on to RecTalks,
the number one company called RecTalks.
but yeah, it was like 3 hours. There was one like, and there was 250 views of it, right? I had 4 inquiries inbound.
Did you really?
Of people going, can you send me some more info? Can we jump on a call? I booked in 3 calls and one lot of like, look, here's the one page. I'll follow up next week with you.
Yeah.
And it's like, I could have been like, oh, that's embarrassing. Like, I've only got 1 like, and like, you know, people look at my content and like, what a shame. I need to join an engagement pod or something.
That's because of what we've been sort of
I don't give a shit. I was buzzing. I was like, got 4 inbound.
No. How you were feeling about my? Because you are doing it. Have you got kids?
Yeah.
And the best bit of advice someone ever gave me about my kids is like, if your kids are doing something, mucking about with a glass, are you unhappy that they're doing that, or are you embarrassed that other people are thinking you're a bad parent? And I remember hearing that, and that in work and social is, am I really upset that my post didn't hit? Or am I sat there going, other people think I'm not content? Because everybody's content now goes up and down. Of course it does. You know, I used to get tens and tens of thousands of views. I was never 100,000 views. I was always tens and tens of thousands. But now, ever since I looked at that, I might get 1,000 views, and then I look at it and it's like, it says a founder or a director, and it's like,
my audience.
Great, that's who I. And which what was the other thing? It's not just companies, because I didn't know you could change it for a company. Not locations. What's it called? Area. Whatever it's called. And I changed it, and it said event services, and I'm like, oh my god, my stuff's reaching. And honestly, for my own mental health, it has changed my life. It's made me be like,
I say this to my staff all the time, like, guys. if you're posting something, post because you feel it's valuable,
Yeah.
not because you want the likes and shares.
No.
So if you're posting just for likes and shares, well, find a picture of your cute dog and whack that up there. A picture of your holiday, you know, or get yourself a picture of you on the beach, like in Ibiza, and put that on there. If you just want likes and shares, there's a very easy way to do that. If you're sharing something because you genuinely think it's witty, it's going to add value, all the rest of it, put it out there, and then don't keep looking and look for your vanity metrics, because people will. I mean, me and my old business partner, we sussed this a long time ago. In the LinkedIn wants you to use it as a social network, so use it as a social network, but you forget about the likes and the shares and the vanity metrics. Just put things out and use it consistently. And what ends up happening is what's happening right now with me, which is I speak to people and they're like, mate, you are on my fucking socials all the time. You are all over my LinkedIn.
And that's who you want.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, that's by design. Because I'm building a platform which is designed to show that, hey, we can broadcast your stuff to a wide audience. Now, if you're seeing me, that means that other people will also be seeing you, which means that your product will be seen by me. So it's like the sell works and the theory and the concept works, right? And it took me a long time to get my head around that. Oh no, LinkedIn isn't a business networking site. LinkedIn's a social media.
But
you
it's
use
also
it properly.
LinkedIn wants you to be addicted to LinkedIn.
Of course it does. Yeah.
LinkedIn. What I mean, realistically, LinkedIn doesn't want us on there because LinkedIn wants to be a recruitment company. LinkedIn doesn't want me on there because I'm a recruiter. But we are, what is it, 80, 70 something % of its revenue?
Yes.
But LinkedIn is a recruitment thing,
Yeah,
really.
it's a recruitment tool.
It doesn't want
it is,
and I always think of it now as like, I mean, I have a system, I've got a dictaphone on my phone and I'll say things like, oh, ask this question on social, and so I use that to filter. And I've got a Google Doc open. I call it Robert's Brain Dump because I'm really clever like that. And then I write all my posts out, and then I go back to, and the amount of stuff I've been, because I'm like, oh God, you sound like a right angry young man there. Who's going to be interested in what you just saw? And that's about that value thing. We're not celebs. There's a guy called Adam Karpiak who is the closest thing I think to a recruiter celeb. He's got 250,000. He's a recruiter in New York, accountancy recruiter. Absolutely has got the best profile you'd imagine as a recruiter.
Okay.
He can put things on like, he does things like, he does a post and it says, what's better, applying via Workday or covering yourself with honey and running in a bear's cave? And he'll get like 20,000 people will do it because he's built that over time. But no one wants to, it's that thing of who wants to know what you're up to? Is it really important
it's the Twitter effect, isn't it?
Exactly. And I think LinkedIn, and God, this isn't Facebook or whatever. I don't care about that. But I think there's so much crap on there that people should just have an internal filter. Go to post it and go, I'll post that tomorrow. Because then it would really clear it up and you wouldn't get this problem, which I think we get now is, there's some great people out there posting content. My content's not great, but it's done for an audience I want to receive it. I could do vanity metrics on recruitment, and Will and I are talking about this at the moment with OX7, and their videos get thousands and thousands. His TikTok account,
it's great,
But we're looking at that, going, but are we getting business from that? And obviously he is. He's doing very well because he obviously runs OX, and together we run this one. But we're looking at it but what could we do to really turbocharge that?
Yeah.
And instead of having a good year, have every year be amazing and utilize this social.
But that's where the understanding of marketing comes in.
Yeah,
because that's when having a true marketer would go, okay, so let's put an outro on the videos.
Yeah,
let's make sure that make sure every video's got a CTA. Make sure that you occasionally chuck in a plug of a vacancy you're working on or something that you do that's work related or whatever, and kind of subconsciously start building that into it. But this is the difference between salespeople who don't understand or don't know marketing as well. Because as salespeople, we always point to the marketing guys like, you just don't get it. You don't know what it's like to be on the phone 100 times, get told no. No, that's great, but we don't know what their things like either. And we could be really, really good at doing that sort of stuff. And Will and the team are fantastic. And every video that comes up on my feed, I'll sit and watch. And these guys are brilliant.
Very good.
And I've that shit phrase again, personal brand. They've all got their own little personality, and they've all got and they've had their own little character arc, and it's been great. But it's sort of like, do you know, if you had somebody in marketing behind this, you also would have managed to get like maybe a lot more business off the back of it, because people
Yeah,
would have
like
related
sponsor.
that
Well,
to,
it's
yeah, do you know
nuts.
what I mean?
But
Even
it's
just
also
sponsorship of videos or whatever,
yeah.
right?
But it's like you said earlier, though, about having someone external, because back end of last year, I started looking at a content strategy for this year, and I post Monday to Friday, but I'm very specific about Monday. I'll do a poll. Tuesday, it's about my podcast. You know, it's quite nice and clear.
Yeah.
And someone said to me, "Where'd you post your jobs?" And I was like, "Oh, when a job goes live, I'll post it. And Monday afternoon, Monday evening is a good time to post a job." And they said to me, "And then where?" And I was like, "What do you mean? Are you telling me you only post your job once on these big, chunky roles?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
Like, why would you not?
Holy
And
shit.
you want people to go on your feed and be like,
Yeah.
he only does senior stuff, but you put a senior. So I've started doing like, and there are only two or three. These are the two or three jobs I'm working on. And suddenly people are going, "Oh, great, yeah. Could you speak to so and so?" And it's that sort of,
Yeah.
oh my God, it's so simple if you turn it around from. And this was my aha moment about 18 months ago. That sort of, I want to tell the world. You have to change that into like, why would they listen to me?
Yeah.
Like, what is it people follow? People don't follow me because they want to know what I'm doing in my day.
They're not waiting for you to
exactly.
update
Where's
your
Robert? Where's
feed.
Robert?
That's the difference, isn't it? People aren't
Well, like
waiting
the
for you.
newsletter. The LinkedIn newsletter. I've got something like 3,500 subscribers, and of course my PR lady was like, "Sorry, 3,500 people have said send me information fortnightly,
and you're still not doing it." Yeah.
and you're like, again, oh yeah, that's quite smart. So we all went through that year after the pandemic of thinking recruitment is the
digital.
bloody.
Do
I mean,
it
that
this
was God. I could do a years like that. And I think back end of last year was for me. It settled down into this is now the new. This is the level now. And I hadn't done BD for 18 months, 2 years, and I suddenly was like, oh my pipeline's dried up here. No one knows who I am. I'm not picking up the phone. I haven't got.
Anton, hit them phones harder.
I know, and it was that's where Anton came in. Like he's been with me a year now, because I was suddenly like, shit, I haven't done this. But the product, and going all the way back to the retained stuff, if you can sit there and say, this is how it adds value, this is what it is, and if you want it, you ask people as many times as you can, here's another option to what you've always done. More often than not, people are going to go, yeah, all right. Yeah. Because they've tried that. And if they haven't tried yours, it's new. And they want to be that, like you said, they want to be that person going, I use a retained recruiter, and this is what he does for me.
Yeah. It's the Tesla model.
Yeah, no, I love that.
Nobody who's ever bought a Tesla told you it was a bad idea until they got rid of it, right?
Yeah, no, I like that. That is a good one.
So, do you know what I love about all of this is the fact that you're not a retained trainer. Do you know what I mean? You haven't got a training course that you're trying to plug here.
I've been asked to do it. People have asked me.
Yeah, I was going to say, so if I've got listeners out there that want to get in touch and like pick your brains a little bit, or want you to cast their eyes over,
pay me.
yeah. What's your hourly rate? And
I think I try not to. I mean, for me, if you want to look at retained, the easiest way to do it is, what would you pay up front for someone to do? Yeah. And if you can't answer that question, then you don't have a retained model. Yeah. You just can't, and you have to be prepared to listen to other people rip it apart. Yeah. And even in my industry, I was told by people that I now would say are friends, that will never work. That's never been done. And I'm in an industry where retained hasn't even come in. And in a weird way, I think that's benefited me. In a weird way, because retained has never been a model people have heard of or used. So it's a bit like,
so
this
there's
is
no
new.
And there's no kind of bad examples, or we did it once before it was shit. Yeah.
And I think for me, the biggest USP that I came up with was, if I don't, if you, and I think I do, I can't remember what my terms of business are. Oh, it says if you don't interview my shortlist. If you don't interview my shortlist, I will give you your retainer back. Because I'm standing there saying, I'm going to brief, I'm going to write a job description, I'm going to write a role profile, I'm going to interview, I'm going to do all this stuff.
And it's like, if after all of that, you still can't get this
screw up, then don't give me the money. I don't deserve it. I will, why would I? And that's contingent. But the weird thing is, we've just described contingency. I'll do all of that, and I might not get
And
paid.
I'll do, yeah. And you still won't answer the phone to me. Yeah.
You could have the best shortlist in the world. And we had that email from Bob in HR a month ago. No, you didn't. So I think that's what I would say about retained. If you're thinking about retained, it's about thinking smaller. It's not a volume thing. It's about thinking what would people pay for. And you do, like the fitability thing, it's a made up word. I just made it up and trademarked it, because what happens? People say to me, what's fitability?
Yeah.
And what they've said is, sell to me. Tell me why I should give you money.
Bingo.
So have something that you can stand and be proud of. And also, don't put down other recruiters. Like, our industry is one of the, I just can't believe how much and I was one of them. I was one of them. And as I've got
I'd like
older,
to say that's changed in recent years.
maybe the pandemic.
Yeah.
Maybe
I think that certainly has changed in recent years. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Don't sell your shit against other recruiters.
No.
Sell your shit. Tell them how good you are. Tell them what the things that you're going to do. Don't shit on someone.
No, absolutely.
So I think this is the year to switch to retained if you're thinking about it, because it is harder to. Pipeline's gone, for most people.
Yeah.
Business development and outreach is number one priority for most agencies right now, and it's all about the relationship build and that kind of thing. I think now is a better time than ever before, because you're not getting can you just fill this role, or you're not getting you've spec'd this candidate to me, can you book them in for an interview? You're not that's not happening anymore. So you're having to think about it a bit more. So I think actually this might be the year we see more people move to this retained model.
And don't get me wrong, like the whole
you've trademarked fitability. Why not just sell it?
I stole
Sell
it actually.
the training.
There was a PR company that pitched to me about 10 years ago, and he had called it talkability. And I'll never forget saying to him, what the hell's talk? And he actually said to me, it's the same as everyone else is going to sell you. I just called it that so you'd ask me a question. And when I set up my recruitment fund, I was like, I need to come up with something. But I think the interesting thing there about what you just mentioned there is, it's also like I do work with other recruiters. I will, if a recruiter gets in touch and says, "Oh, I see you've got an MD role there," I'm not going to sit there and not talk to them. No, it's never. I think I've done it once in a few years, but I think it's that thing about just sort of looking at it from, what do I want to do? What do I want to be known for? And sticking to your guns with it. Really, believing in it.
No, I like that. Brilliant. Rob, I think that about wraps us up for today.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, it was really good timing. I think it's almost on the
it's almost like you know what you're doing. I like
that. So if anyone wants to reach out to you, get in touch with you, what's the best way to do so?
LinkedIn, Robert Kenward, Kenward. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, tickety talk, Instagram, and all the other social media channels you can find. Yeah, follow me if you're in events. Sign up to my newsletter.
Okay. Brilliant. Guys, thanks for listening to another episode of RecTalk, and we'll see you again next week.
Thanks, Tim.
That was good, mate.
Cheers,
wicked. Turn this all on now.